Hello there, my beautiful friends. If this is your first time to my channel, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Emily, and today I am bringing you a very special collab video. Today we are going to be going over my perfect makeup line and my perfect makeup products that I would create for my makeup line. So we have a lot of ground to cover here, so let's go ahead and jump right on in. So as I just stated, this is a collaboration video, and I decided to collaborate with one of my very good friends here on YouTube, Miss Paulina Beauty. I am sure you guys are already subscribed to her, and if you are not, girl, what are you doing? Jump off this video real quick, hop over to Paulina's channel and click that subscribe button because Paulina is freaking amazing. She is absolutely fantastic when it comes to makeup. She has amazing content. She loves color just as much as me, but she is about 1,000 times better at putting together really unique color theories and really fun, colorful looks than I could ever be. She's so freaking talented. She's an absolute sweetheart, and I'm really, really happy that she decided to do this collab with me. I approached her about it, and I was a little bit hesitant, and I wasn't sure if she was going to want to do this with me because she's actually coming out with her own palette with Blush Tribe. But since this is our perfect makeup line, and basically we were going to create 3 different products that we would come out with in our perfect makeup line, she had a bunch of different types of items to choose from, so she decided to do the collab with me, and I wanted to do this collaboration with her because our styles are so similar yet very different at the same time. I think that because we're both into color, the types of products we would come out with would be really unique, and I thought she was the perfect gal to ask to do this collaboration with me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into what my perfect makeup line would be. So the basis for this idea is what 3 products would we come out with if we were to have our own makeup line. And I'm sure it comes as absolutely no surprise to you guys, but I decided to choose 2 different eyeshadow palettes and 1 highlighter. I was kind of on the fence about whether or not I wanted to do like an eyeshadow palette, a lipstick, a highlighter, a blush, whatever it may be, and I'm sure you guys are aware, but I've done videos like this on my channel before, and I've done like palette predictions, you know, palette recreations and whatnot, but I wanted to just stick to eyeshadows and highlighters because those were the most interesting and unique concepts that I had ideas for. And obviously anything having to do with recreating makeup or creating our own makeup or making mock-up palettes all stems back from Miss Makeup Struggles here on YouTube, so I give 100% credit to her for literally teaching all of us how to create our own palettes via PowerPoint and Photoshop. So thank you, Makeup Struggles. But let me stop rambling here because I've been rambling for like 5 minutes of this video already, and let's go ahead and jump right on into my perfect makeup line and what 3 items I would come out with if I were to launch one. So I decided to do 2 different eyeshadow palettes because a lot of people have seen my palette prediction videos, my palette recreation videos here on my channel, and a lot of them don't really end up looking similar, but they have a similar color scheme just because I gravitate towards eyeshadows and colors that I personally like and that I personally would wear. And obviously I'm wearing more of a minimal eyeshadow makeup look today, but if you're new to my channel here, I wear pink eyeshadow all the freaking time. I wear bright pink eyeshadow, hot pink, hot purple, hot orange, whatever it may be. I stick to like the pinky, orangey, red, purpley kind of side of things. So I wanted to make a palette that would be perfect for me, but because I've done palettes that might look kind of similar to that on my channel before, I decided to do something that I personally wouldn't necessarily go for or think to go for, but something that I think would be unique for other people who are into cool tones and blues and whatnot. I tried to pull a little Hannah Montana on you guys here and give you the best of both. So let me go ahead and get started with the palette that I'm sure you guys are already expecting. I tried to make it a little bit different though and make it more unique to the other palettes that I've created before. But without further ado, this is my Sweet Cafe palette. I think that the idea of having dessert themed makeup, dessert named makeup is so freaking cute. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it is my cup of tea. And I am always interested in brands and products when they come out with dessert and like sweet themed items. So I had to play that up because although it might be tacky to some, I think that it is just adorable. And I absolutely love rose gold. I absolutely adore it. So I decided to make the outside packaging kind of like a pinky rose gold foil. And I wanted to include some roses because I thought it looked nice and elegant, and I don't know, it's kind of girly, but it's not too girly, if you will. I mean, it's pretty girly, let's be honest here, but I think that it's not too over the top. And it has some rose gold trim on it as well, and then obviously it says Sweet Cafe on the front of the palette. So then when we get into the inside of the palette, I wanted the actual palette itself to replicate what we're seeing on the front side of the palette. So I decided to put a kind of rose gold border, if you will, around the outside of the inside of the packaging. And I wanted to put a rose gold foil circle around each and every one of the pans as well, just to make it look really elegant and pretty and fun. But jumping right on into the most important part of this palette, the eyeshadow shade. So I tried to group together colors here as much as I could and basically put them row by row. So getting started with the first row, the very first shade that I wanted to put in is a really beautiful, true kind of iridescent yellow gold, if you will, but it would be more so on the yellow side versus like the white iridescent gold side. I wanted it to be the perfect brow bone highlight for me and for my personal taste, and I know a lot of people out there are like me and they like a very intense and bright inner corner and brow bone highlight. So this is for my girls and boys who enjoy a very beaming, very loud brow bone and inner corner highlight. And of course you could use this as an all over face highlight as well. So the second shade in the palette is a beautiful duochrome. Of course a lot of these are going to be duochromes because if you know me, you know that I love duochromes. And I wanted to make something that was kind of like what I have on my eyeballs right now. This is a green, gold, and aqua blue, like multi-chrome type of shadow. So I basically modeled this shade somewhat after the shade on my eyes right now, and this is from the Pat McGrath Mothership 5 palette. Is it VR Fire Opal or Blitz Fire Opal? I think it's VR Fire Opal, but it's a gorgeous green and gold duochrome that has a bit of a burnt orangey undertone, and I wanted to take that green gold duochrome and throw in some aqua blue as well because I think that would go really nicely with this shade and it would give a really interesting look to the eyes. I think it would be a really unique shadow. I've never seen anything like that on the market before, and I really wish that this was a real thing. So can someone make this happen please, because I would be a very happy girl. But moving on to the third shade in the top row, we have a gorgeous true matte kind of rosy mauve shade. I think this would go really beautifully with the rest of the shades that we have in the palette, and this is the perfect transition shade for me. I use transition shades like this all the time with orange looks, with pink looks, with red looks. I am always reaching for a rosy mauve to kind of blend everything out with. And the last shade in the top row is of course something that matches the palette perfectly. I wanted a shade that would match that rose gold undertone that we see on the front of the palette with the foiled, and basically just match the entire theme. So this is a beautiful pinky rosy gold shade. This is super metallic. These would be so freaking buttery. If I came out with my own makeup palette, I would make sure that these foils would be like the most intense foils you've ever seen. I would make them like Pat McGrath status foils. I mean, those are the best on the market in my personal opinion, and I wouldn't want anything less than that. So this would be an extremely bright, extremely in-your-face rose gold. So moving on into the second row, we have a very cool toned, very bright, hot pinky purple. This would be beautiful to start out any look with, to use as a transition shade. This would be perfect all over the lid. It'd be perfect buffed all over the lid and just calling it a day. I absolutely love shades like this. You guys know I love hot pink, but I wanted to make it more cool toned than I typically would go for. Usually if I'm going for hot pink, I'm going for like a neon fluorescent pink, and this one is much more cool toned, and I think it works really nicely with some of the other purples and reds that we have in here as well. So the second shade in the second row is a beautiful duochrome, and this would be a fuchsia to orange duochrome. Have you ever seen anything like that on the market? The closest thing that I can personally think of is Cleona Cosmetics Bonbon, which is a fuchsia to bluish kind of duochrome, but I think that a fuchsia to orange duochrome would be so freaking cool, and I've really been loving like one eyeshadow looks, just like what I'm wearing today, and I've been liking a very bold and strong duochrome all over the lids and then just leaving it at that. I think it looks so cool and fun and unique, and I think it's just so easy, but you still have a really interesting and unique eye look. So this would be the perfect shade for that type of eye look. The third shade in the second row is a super neon intense fluorescent bright peach. This would be a beautiful transition shade. This would be a gorgeous all over lid color. This would be perfect paired up with some of the lighter mauves. I mean, you can do a lot of things with this type of color. I absolutely love fluorescent shades and I love bright shades, and I didn't just want to put in a bright orange. I wanted it to be more peachy. This way you could go with the purples and the berries and the reds, and I think this just kind of meshes together with everything really well. So then the last shade in the second row is something that might look familiar to you guys if you guys are pretty frequent viewers of my channel. This is basically just the shade Watermelon from Give Me Glow Cosmetics. I know, I was supposed to come out with my own shade here, but I love watermelon so freaking much. I use it all the time. I use it in the crease. I use it all over the lid. I'll put it freaking everywhere if I have to. It's a beautiful hot pinky red that's a gorgeous matte, and I think this goes really, really nicely with everything as well. I think it would be beautiful with the rose gold all over the lid, or the fuchsia and orange duochrome, or even the blue and gold and green duochrome. I mean, I think that would be really fun if you were to just buff this in the crease and kind of sheer it out a little bit and then pat that guy all over the center. I think it would be really cool. It would be very bold, but very cool nonetheless. And moving on to the final row in the Sweet Cafe palette, we have a beautiful, cool toned, kind of lighter lilac-y purple shade. And this would definitely be more on the cool tone side than the warm side. And I think this would be absolutely stunning with this entire bottom row, or even the second row. I mean, this is a shade that's very versatile with the shades that I chose out for this palette, because it can be used with the pinks, it can be used with the purples, of course. You could pair it up with some of the iridescent shades just to do a really easy but still colorful look. And that was kind of what I was going for with this palette, was really easy but still interesting and colorful makeup. So you wouldn't have to reach for a whole bunch of shades to get a really fun and colorful look. You could basically just choose like one or two mattes and then throw on a metallic on the lid or a duochrome, and you would still have something super interesting and really unique. That's my personal favorite style of makeup. I love super effortless and easy makeup that's still very bright and colorful and in your face. So the second shade in the last row is one of my favorites that I did for this palette. It's a beautiful, super ultra foiled metallic, kind of mid-toned lilac-y lavender, if you will, but it's a little bit deeper than the cool toned pale matte lavender. I kind of made this to go with the matte lavender because I think this would be stunning just patted all over the lid, and then you could use the lavender in the crease and just call it a day. I absolutely love purple eyeshadow, and we don't see a whole lot of true, really foiled metallic lilacs. We see like deep purples that are a little bit more metallic-y, and then we see like light purples that are metallic-y, but we don't really see much that's kind of in the middle of those two. So I wanted to make my dream a reality here and come out with something that is super bright, yet still on the mid-toned purple spectrum of things. So the one right next to that, which is the third shadow in the last row, is of course a beautiful deep purpley berry shade that's a bit more warm toned than the purples that I've shown you guys this far. And I wanted this to basically match up with the shade that's right next door to it that we'll talk about in a moment. But I mean, I'm a sucker for berry shades. Everyone and their mama knows this, and I had to include a beautiful like fuchsia-y berry tone. And this particular berry would not lean to the plummy kind of brownie side of things. It would definitely have more of a pink undertone and more of like a purpley undertone as well. This way it would match really nicely with some of the other shades that I picked out in here, especially the reds and the pinks. I wanted everything to work really cohesively together. And the final shade that would be in this palette is a beautiful deep fuchsia berry metallic, and this would be that same kind of Pat McGrath ultra foiled type of scenario here. This guy would be super bright. I want it to have gold glitter throughout it, but not super chunky gold glitter. Glitter like what I'm wearing on my eyes right now, okay? I really drew inspiration from Pat McGrath here with the way that she puts glitter in her shadows. I would want something that is very subtly kind of glittery, but you could still see it when you're in the sunlight, and you would see that beautiful like fuchsia berry metallic with just a hint of gold glitter throughout. I can't think of anything like that on the market right now, and I wish there was something like that because that would be freaking awesome, but until then, I will just keep dreaming here. So that is the entire Sweet Cafe palette, and I completely forgot to tell you guys, but I named all of those shades. So I'll go ahead and like pop up a picture of all the names that I chose for those specific shades. I made them all dessert themed, if you will, and like sweets themed. So I'll definitely pop up a picture so you guys can see that I actually named them. I put in a little bit of extra effort here. But I'm sure you guys were expecting that type of palette from me, so I wanted to bring you something that was for someone who doesn't necessarily want anything sweets related or want anything that's pink and purpley and rose goldy. So I decided to create another eyeshadow palette and call this one the Winter Frost palette. Now it would have a very similar front cover design to the Sweet Cafe palette, but instead of having the rose gold foil, this would have a beautiful cool toned silver foil. It would have the silver foil trim just like as the first palette, and of course this is Winter Frost on the front of the palette so that you can easily find it in your collection. This also has some cream toned flowers as well, but these are different than the ones on the Sweet Cafe palette, but it's just a similar vibe, and I just wanted these on there to tie in the collection together and make them look similar, but yet still different at the same time. And a fun fact about the Winter Frost palette, I named it that because I thought that these colors were more so geared towards people who like cool tones and who might reach for like blues and cool tone purples and greens and whatnot. But I had a really hard time actually coming up with this name. For some reason, as soon as I thought of the color scheme and I thought of the actual packaging itself and I created it, my mind automatically went to Sardine Party. And I was like seriously considering naming this palette Sardine Party, but I was like, no, I can't freaking do that. People are gonna think I'm insane. But I don't know why. I thought that Sardine Party was the perfect name for this palette. So the formal name is Winter Frost, but in my head, it's still Sardine Party. What the hell's wrong with me? So the inside of the palette would look just like so here, and we have a very similar setup, of course, to the Sweet Cafe palette as well, but instead of having the rose gold trim that matched the outside of the Sweet Cafe palette, we have the silver foil trim that matches the silver foil outside of the Winter Frost palette. This also has the silver foil rings around each of the pans, and the actual color of the material, I suppose, I don't really know what it's called, but the part that's not covered in foil is a really beautiful pale lavender shade. But jumping right on into the shadows, as I said, I wanted to go for more cool toned bluish, kind of orangey, purpley, green. That's kind of a lot of colors, but more cool toned kind of frosty shades. So the first shade that I decided to choose for this palette is a beautiful bright neon aqua blue. This kind of reminds me of a sugar pill shade. I believe it's called Mochi. I'm not 100% sure because I don't own it, but from what I can tell, that shade looks to be a beautiful like mid-toned aqua, and I just wanted this one to be just a touch bright. The second shade in the palette is a gorgeous duochrome. This is an aqua teal blue duochrome that shifts to a bright silver shade, and I haven't really seen much like this on the market. I think it would be so fun and unique. You know, you're looking straight forward and it looks aqua, and then you turn your head and it looks silver, and I think that would be just perfect with some of these blues and some of the teals that I picked out. I can think of some really beautiful eye looks with a shade like this. Moving on to the third shade in the palette, I wanted to create another lilac duochrome, but this is way more cool toned than the mid-toned lilac from the Sweet Cafe palette. And this one is also a duochrome, so it shifts to a lime green. How fun is that? Can you imagine having like a lilac metallic that shifts to a lime green? That sounds absolutely incredible, and someone needs to make this happen. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And the final shade in the top row is a beautiful mid-toned matte teal. This shade would be perfect with the first aqua shade or with really any of these shades that's in this top row. So moving right into the second row of this palette, this row is like the peas and carrots type of row here. As you can see, we have that beautiful mid-toned lime green, and then we have that orange, and I just automatically thought of peas and carrots when I looked at this. But just like I said, the first shade in this row would be a beautiful mid-toned lime green matte. It wouldn't be too overly bright, so you could really buff it into your crease and sheer it out a little bit and have like a wash of lime green, or you could build it up and pack it on a little bit to make it a bit deeper and to make it less fluorescent, if you will. Now, the second shade in this row is an orange, and I wanted it to be a bit more muted than we would typically see. I have some really bright oranges in my collection, and they can really overpower a look, so I wanted something that you could use a little bit more sparingly and kind of buff out into the crease, just like with the lime green, something that could build up on itself to be a bit more neon, but if you buffed it out, it would look a little bit lighter and a little bit softer, and you could kind of control how much pigment you put on with this shade. Especially when working with greens and with blues and with purples and stuff, this would be really nice because you can build it up if you want to, but you can also keep it a little bit more tame as well. Now, the third shade in the second row is a beautiful metallic khaki green that has a bit of a gold shift to it. I think this would be perfect with every shade that we see here in this row. I mean, literally this second row goes perfectly together. I can think of a bunch of different eye looks to do with this. I think this color combo together is awesome. And you know, seeing a quad come out in this color scheme wouldn't be the worst thing that we've seen on the market. So I think that would be really fun, and I think that it's a great color combo. And finally, in the second row, we have a beautiful deep matte khaki green that has a bit of a mustardy undertone. So it works really well with the lime green, but because it has that mustardy undertone, it also does work really well with the orange. You wouldn't pair these two together and it wouldn't look too muddy because it has that mustardy undertone that really complements the orange, and the fact that the orange is a bit more muted also helps to complement the mustard. It's getting pretty dark in here, so I hope that the lighting isn't too terrible, but I'm gonna get through the last row here. I know it's been kind of a lot of talking because we have a lot to go through with all of these different eyeshadow pans. But the last row in this palette is, I want to say it's my favorite, but honestly I like all rows in this palette. I think they're all equally as cool and unique. So this guy is a duochrome, of course, but it would be a beautiful fuchsia, kind of pinky, almost reddy type fuchsia, if you will, and it would shift to a bright teal blue. I think that's super fun. I think those colors go really well together, but they're still different enough so that you would see a really strong duochrome flip on the eyes, and I think that this is another one of those shades that you could just pat all over the eyes and have a really eye-catching and colorful with little to no effort going into the look. So the second shade in the last row is a beautiful, deep, plummy, kind of blackened plum purple, if you will. I think this would be beautiful with the navy blue that we're gonna get into in a little bit. I think this would be gorgeous with the orange or even with the teal, and I think this would be really nice to use with a lot of the metallics as well. And I wanted to put in a purple that wasn't too purple, so that's why I went for the blackened plum type of shadow, because I feel like this goes really nicely with a lot of the cool tones that we have going on in this little mix of colors here. So the second to last shade in the last row is a gorgeous, super foiled metallic deep navy with a bit of an aqua shift to it as well, and this one would have some micro sparkle in it too. Just like the shade with the Sweet Cafe palette, this wouldn't be super chunky or super glittery. It would just be like a nice little sprinkle of micro shimmer that would be a beautiful, like, true aqua color, and it would give the eyeshadow a lot of dimension, especially when you're out in the sunlight. But when you're in just normal lighting, like right now, like I'm in, it would just look like a metallic navy blue, if you will. And finally, the last shade in this palette is, of course, that beautiful, deep, rich navy blue. Now, this blue isn't too black, and it's not too deep, and it's not too bright either. It's kind of right in between, like super, super dark, almost black navy, and royal blue. I think this would be perfect to use to deepen up any of these looks with, and to use with any of these lighter colors. And of course, it goes really nicely with the teal and with the aqua as well. And I've been talking for like 30 minutes. This is taking way longer than I thought it was originally going to, but we have had a lot of eyeshadows to go through here. So the very last product that I would come out with if I came out with my own makeup line would be a highlighter. Because I love super metallic and super bright and in-your-face highlighters, this would be no exception. This would be a super, super bright and shiny highlight that you could literally see from space. If you were an astronaut on the moon, you would be able to see this highlight. But this highlight would be called Ultraviolet, and that is because I wanted this to be a super bright but iridescent purple. It would have a bit of an iridescent gold undertone, if you will, but it would more so focus on the lavender shade that's kind of underlying in it. So the gold would make it a little bit more wearable, and the fact that it's iridescent would make it a little bit more wearable, but because it has that beautiful lavender, like lilac-y undertone, when you turn your face, you would see a very, very bright and intense lilac shift. And I actually modeled this shade after this beautiful loose pigment by Smolder Cosmetics, which is in the shade Wild Orchid. This is one of their loose glam dusts. Now, this shade is not super metallic, but it is really beautiful and does have a very strong iridescent kind of goldy but still pinky lilac-y undertone to it. So I would basically just take this guy and mix it with a bunch of really intense and bright pigments and pearls to make it super, super metallic on the skin and make it super wet looking while still having a really strong lilac undertone. But I basically talked your guys' ear off about this, and I've lost all of my sunlight. Where did it go? I do not know, but I am gonna go ahead and wrap up this video here. As I said at the beginning, please do check out Paulina Beauty if you have not yet. She is amazing, and thank you so much, Paulina, for collabing with me on this video. It was so fun to create all of this, and I love creating these types of makeup products, and maybe one day, I will have my own makeup products to come out with. That would literally be the dream. I hope that happens someday. But until then, it's still fun to make these little mock-up palettes, and I can't wait to see what Paulina comes out with because I have no idea what her video is going to be like yet. But with that being said, that is going to be wrapping up today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did enjoy it, I do hope that you consider subscribing if you have not already. I am doing all sorts of makeup goodness happening here on this channel, and if you enjoyed the video, I do also hope that you consider giving this video a big old thumbs up and turning on the notification bell if you want to know when I am posting. But I hope that you are having an absolutely amazing and beautiful day wherever you are, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Bye!